Hello there, and welcome back to another Starfield video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Farseer paid mod that came out this week by Almighty SE. This is a quest mod that has some interesting features with it. It's 500 credits, so for full transparency, I reviewed this mod on Tuesday on my live stream, which I will have a link in the description if you want to watch the full video. I initially intended to review it on Xbox, but I had some sound issues. So I had to swap over to PC because I didn't want to, So in this video, I'm gonna give you a kind of a non-spoiler review, and then if you want some slight spoilers, I will give you a kind of a spoiler review. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it, shall we? All right, so we're here in the lodge. So I guess start off with the kind of the non-spoiler stuff. So it's a quest that takes you probably about 2 hours to complete, maybe 2.5 hours, depending on the difficulty. The voice acting in it is not the best, to be honest. The two kind of primary characters, well, one of them sounds like an AI. They're not actually an AI. It's just how the voice actor is portraying their voice. And the second character is, it's not the best voice acting we have seen from the mod team. It's not the worst. It's definitely passable, but I think if you're the sort of person where like kind of voice acting matters to you, you're probably gonna have issues with it. Ironically, there is some very good voice acting by characters later on through the quest line, but those characters aren't kind of the main characters. So yeah, so it it basically adds after the course of the 2-hour playthrough, towards the end, it adds some new features to the game by way of a new kind of ship upgrades and new escort vessels. So in obviously we won't spoil too much of what it is just yet, but if I will say, if you're looking for a kind of a quest line where you don't really mind too much about if you don't really mind the voice acting being a bit kind of, I would say the voice acting's like a 6 out of 10, 6 bamboos out of 10. It's not bad. It's very much passable, and it's honestly the voice acting of kind of the primary character towards like the second half of the mod, it starts to make sense why the voice actor talks the way they talk. But in the initial in the initial one, it's a bit kind of weird. The combat, there is combat in it, and there's a decent amount of combat. Again, this mod author has a habit of kind of blurring the lines of like what might be lore versus what isn't. This is probably their closest attempt at following the lore of the game. The main antagonist in the game is a faction that's like kind of technically like splits off from the UC and stuff. I don't think it's based on like a real faction. It's a cool idea, but yeah. To be completely honest with you, the mod, for the most part, and you can watch it in the stream, it plays quite average until like near the end, and then there's like a kind of a peak where it goes from maybe like a 5 to like an 8, and then immediately drops down to like a 2. So if you are interested in like I said, if you're the sort of person where you don't mind kind of some a quest line that's, I mean, it's okay, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, I kind of rated probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It's not groundbreaking, it's no escape, but it's all right. It's definitely not the Almighty's best work, and I feel like some of it it feels quite rushed. So if that's pretty much it for the non-spoiler. Now there's going to be spoilers now from this part on, where I go into detail on kind of my issues with the mod. And obviously a lot of these are just, they're obviously opinion. It's my opinion, as I like to say. You may disagree with me. Like I said, I will have a link to to my playthrough and stream, because there's no point me doing it again. I feel like it would be kind of not I need to turn off that setting. It would be kind of not disingenuous, but yeah, it just wouldn't have the appeal. So anyway, so the kind of the main plot point of the mod is basically this: you come across this station, and this station is orbiting an asteroid that has this weird red gas. And you're like, oh, this is kind of cool. This looks very cool. You board this space station and you meet this character that called Quinn, who very much like, well, I'd say for the first half of the mod, my chat and myself were trying to determine like whether or not it was AI or not. I don't believe it's AI. I think it's just the voice actor was given the kind of the dial, or was given the what would you say, their brief was to maybe sound kind of AI, very emotionless. The voice acting is very clear, just very emotionless and kind of unusual. The other character is the other kind of primary character is very much like voice acting is okay, but like they're it sounds like they're kind of putting on a kind of a, think Marcus Phoenix, very much dumb. Can you hear me, Tom? Or I'm Batman, very kind of rough and gruff and stuff, which it's not too bad, but their microphone quality is a bit, So the whole quest kind of has you try and figure out how to get inside this asteroid, and you end up getting jumped by this group called CETA, which is ironic because initially when you meet them, the voice actors for these three kind of CETA soldiers. CETA is supposed to be a group that like works for the UC, but like kind of UC Black Ops. Their voice acting is absolutely abysmal, and like it just is really strange. Now, eventually, you will meet a group of deserters from CETA that are trying to warn you that CETA's up to bad things. Ironically, those two characters you speak to, their voice acting is very good, but they don't last very long. They end up kind of perishing. And then there's basically, like, I'd say, like, while I talk, I'm going to disable that setting. There's probably what feels like... maybe like an hour, or I will say about like an hour of just kind of combat, jumping through hoops, clearing out these like CETA locations. How the fuck is the setting? Vanity camera off. So it's not bad, but like there's no real lore at all. There's a couple of references to some small things. Like little kind of more like kind of Easter eggy kind of like, references like, oh, please stop calling the spider Jeremy. It's weird when we get, safety reports that I was bitten by Jeremy again. Like, so you're kind of roaming through these like quite big, elaborate space stations / ground stations that are really well designed, but like there's no real lore. Most of the terminals don't work. The quest dial, or like the questing setup, like following the quest, there is certain points where the quest just points you to where you need to go, but it doesn't explain to you that you might need to open gates or find certain things, which again is kind of a bit of a strange one. Eventually you get kind of this cool cinematic where you meet another character who's the main bad guy, who has really good voice acting, and he proceeds to expire. There's some cool space battle scenes. You end up like working with this ecliptic merc who has like a load of ships under his disposal. It adds quite a few new ships to the game, but you can't get them, or maybe, I mean, you probably could get them, but again, they're not really kind of there given to you. You would probably have to jump through a few hoops. And ultimately, you end up like, you get saved by the ecliptic guy, and then you go in and you go back to the asteroid and you enter the asteroid. And there's this really cool kind of sequence where like you're kind of moving through 0G in this like environment that feels very alien, and you're seeing these like shapes and stuff. And the whole kind of plot point is basically that whoever created the artifact is kind of using the Fibonacci sequence, where, like every number previous is like added on. So like it's 1, then 2, then 4, then 8 sort of thing. In order to activate the device, You have to, the good old fashioned zero G touching the floating things in the music with the temples. Well, imagine that on steroids. It completely killed all of the hype for me, and like most of the chat was like, nah. It is, again, it's a weird one, and it kind of highlights why I feel like some mod authors don't actually play the game, or aren't really aware of what's a liked feature and what's not a liked feature. It took me probably well over a half an hour to beat it, and I was getting very frustrated because you basically have to it's exactly like the temples, except instead of the symbols, instead of the weird kind of floating energy particles, you have triangles and squares. And to make matters worse, you have to do them in a specific order. If you fail the order, you start back at the start. And also there's a timer, which means that a lot of the time you won't get there quick enough. And it's, very, very frustrating. Ultimately, when you do complete it, you end up like the main character kind of merges with like this thing. They basically it's like a weird kind of symbiosis where they become part of the artifact, and you then have this kind of battle scene where it's like, oh my god, there's so much information at my disposal. And you basically get these two drones for your ship. They're interesting looking. They're not, I mean, they're kind of cool. They're definitely alien looking, but at the same time, their design philosophy is a little weird. It's very like cylindrical or circular, just kind of like, yeah. You have this like kind of space battle, again, kind of cool. And then you basically go back and she tells you that you can have drones now, one of each. And she has a little terminal. There's like a little house on this space station that you can decorate. It's kind of small. But she does tell you like, oh, if you like come back every so often, I'll give you like or I'll tell you stuff. Now it did say in the mod that you could unlock ship upgrades. I was kind of scratching my head at what that meant until I went and waited on Venus for like 2,400 hours, and I went back, and basically you go to the terminal in your room and you like get a message from her saying she found out how to make your reactor more powerful, and it increases your reactor by 5 power, which is kind of cool. I don't know if there's more you can unlock. She kind of leaves a lot of stuff on a cliffhanger and says, oh, there's going to be so much information. The drones themselves are interesting. You can have two following you. One is catered more towards straight combat, like destroying ships. The other is meant to disable. They're quite cool. I mean, I said it in the when playing it. It seems kind of a bit like Watchtower Light in that like you jump through these hoops to essentially get these alien kind of alien kind of escort ships. All in all, it's not I wouldn't say it's a bad mod, and I mean, value for money, like, you definitely will get, like, you're getting over 2 hours of content, probably more. The quest is quite cool. I think my major criticisms is obviously the voice acting at the start is kind of weird. Later on, the main character does merge with like the I'm assuming AI, and they kind of talk. Their talking makes a lot more sense because in like throughout the entirety of it, they're kind of talking with like think of like the Hanar from Mass Effect. The Hanar kind of talk like, oh, this one loves you. Well, that actually sounds more like fucking, I don't know what that was. But yeah, basically very like kind of like emotionless and stuff. And when they do merge with the AI, the voice acting makes more sense because it adds a kind of a reverb to the voice. So it sounds like there's two talking as one, which I really like and was really cool. But yeah, I think aside from the voice acting, that whole sequence of jumping through the hoops, that really kind of killed it. And honestly, taking into account that, I'd give it like a kind of a 5 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, and you're definitely kind of getting your money's worth, but it does feel like it was a lot more rushed. Like some of the Almighty's previous stuff, we had some phenomenal voice acting, like in The Veil, Beyond the Veil, and Everbright. The only other thing I've seen a few people kind of make criticisms of, and this is something that I feel like a lot of quest mods do, is they kind of throw too much information at you at once. Like, they expect you to know things. Like, you jump on the ship and or you jump on the station for the first time, and it's already talking to you like she knows you, and it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's a design choice just so that, you know, you don't have to spend hours and hours understanding. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, if you don't really care too much about the lore being a little bit kind of, you know, it mangled, it kind of fits into the lore a little bit, and with what they attempted to do, if they had have succeeded properly in what they attempted to do and the voice acting wasn't a bit, you know, questionable, and they didn't have that really god-awful fucking... I mean, okay, there's a lot that could have been improved upon, but I feel like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the premise is very, very interesting. The idea of kind of finding a... And it kind of gives me a little bit of a Halo vibe. It's kind of like almost like when Cortana enters the domain and kind of gains like insight and stuff and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you think. As always, thanks for watching. I will have a link to the stream. I know that's probably not the preferred way for you guys to watch it, but I do play it. Now, obviously, for full transparency, I didn't test it fully on Xbox because I was having audio delays, and I didn't want the mod to look, you know, questionable. But I don't think there would be much problem for I played it initially for about a half an hour, I think, on Xbox, and there was no issues. The only thing I can really think of is there might be maybe a little bit of a slowdown in some of the space fights, but if you've played Watchtower and you have no issue, you'll have no issue with that. That's pretty much it, guys. Also, let me know how the audio sounds. I had to like tweak some things. Obviously, it's just me talking. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.